covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplak.
3, 2, 1.
AEW Fight for the Fallen has officially concluded. I wanted to jump up to the microphone and share a full review and recap of the entire event. But first, $150,000 was raised for victims of gun violence. Whether you loved the show, thought it was all right, or even if you detested the show, that's the best news coming out of this. So let's talk about the venue first. It was very unique. It was Daly's Place. It's an amphitheater. Came across very well on television. Sure, there were some empty seats. Perhaps could have covered them a little bit better, but that's fine. The production standards remained very reputable. The angles, they jumped around quite a bit, though. I'm sure you saw that as well. You could tell the wrestlers were often confused in terms of where to look. At one point, Ray Phoenix actually tapped Pentagon Jr. on the shoulder. He was saying, no, you got to look at this way. I heard there were quite a few issues with Bleacher Report Live. Did you have any issues with the stream? I did. Now, first, of course, it was the closed caption issue. Seemingly everyone encountered that. Overall, it was fairly smooth until the final couple of matches. I should have knocked on wood. It started acting up like crazy. At that point, I just muted the commentary for several different reasons, but let's hope they can resolve this in the future. Again, we're all cheering them on. We want to make sure that it's a well-oiled machine, right? So let's talk about the commentary for a second. Everyone sounded so uninspired. Maybe it was just me, but even Excalibur seemed off. Jim Ross didn't really want to be there. And Alex Marvez. He's playing the insider role. I get it. It's similar to Jay Glazer. But it simply doesn't resonate with me. And that tends to be the common consensus online. Mike Tenay was really the only individual that comes to mind who filled that role very well. By the way, what's Joey Styles up to nowadays? We could use him right about now. As you know, I worked in the radio broadcasting industry. I was raised in media. And I always look at delivery. How natural is it? His is robotic. It is so completely unnatural. It sounds as though he's reading from a script. Even JR was throwing shade and making fun of him. So it's just not highly effective. Let's move on from the commentary over to the buy-in. It was Sonny Kiss versus Peter Avalon with Leva Bates, the Librarians, and they received some pretty big heat. Perhaps this is all by design. Either way, it's still completely silly, and I really hope that they do away with it. It takes up far too much screen time. So Sonny Kiss defeated Peter Avalon with a falling split from the top rope. It was called Kiss It Is. Even a Reading Sucks chant broke out at one point. That's how much they hate the Librarians. Now, I haven't seen very many Sonny Kiss matches, but Sonny is extremely athletic, really pumped up the crowd as well. So they kept the match short but sweet. It was a wise decision, and that includes the outcome as well. Next up, the team of Britt Baker, doctor by the way, in Rio versus Shoka Nakajima and B. Priestley. The team of Nakajima and B. Priestley got their arms raised after Nakajima pinned Rio with a Hurricanrana. Following the conclusion, tensions flared between Priestley and Baker as they continued to fight. I sense they are planting the seeds for a future one-on-one bout, which I would happily watch. There were a few sequences that were rather sloppy, but the match did an excellent job of highlighting the skill and sheer depth of the women's division. In a hilarious slip-up, I'm sure you caught this one, Britt Baker went to the wrong corner to take in her partner. Yes, the wrong Japanese partner. Excalibur did a good enough job of attempting to cover it up. Really couldn't, though. B. Priestley draws many similarities to Paige, and I mean that as a big compliment. A great on-screen debut for Priestley as she was aggressive and opportunistic. Excellent ring IQ. Britt Baker, and I've said this before, has star written all over her, and she will be the face of the women's division. Over to the main card. Darby Allin, Jimmy Havoc, and Joey Janela. I call them Team Hardcore versus MJF, Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears, I call them Team Arrogance. It was a 6-man tag team match. Shawn Spears wore a shirt that borrowed the artwork from Cody, and it stated, "The Chairman." La Parka called he wants his nickname back. Actually, even beyond that, Frank Sinatra called he wants his nickname back. So Spears earned the victory for the team after pinning Darby Allin with a Death Valley driver. Darby received a very strong reaction, a passionate reaction from the audience. I mentioned this before. Jon Moxley believes he has that Jeff Hardy coolness to him the fans gravitate towards. To me, the MVP in the match was arguably Sammy Guevara, who looked outstanding. It was a hot way to kick off the main card. Then we had Brandi Rhodes versus Ali. Brandi introduced Awesome Kong as the great equalizer in her corner. As you can imagine, that definitely impacted the outcome of this match. That's about the most effective backup one could ask for. As expected, Brandi played the opportunistic heel. She did a good job of that. Awesome Kong distracted the referee while Brandi Rhodes tapped out to the Dragon Sleeper. Ali went after Kong, but Brandi landed the Bionic Spear for the victory. Post-match, Awesome Kong went in, picked up Ali for the Awesome Bomb. Aja Kong made the save. This match simply didn't click because I felt as though the chemistry was off between Brandi and Ali. It was a bit of a letdown. I noted this point on the previous episode of the podcast. While I admire Brandi's work ethic and passion, I'm not particularly drawn to her in-ring work. She's a great manager, though. Great on-screen character. Next, the Dark Order versus Jack Evans and Angelico versus Jungle Boy and Lucha Soros with Marco Stunt, who is essentially the Spike Dudley of the team. I'm not even sure why he was there, but I'm not complaining. The winner earns an opportunity to advance to the All Out event for an opportunity at a first-round bye in the New World Tag Team Championship Tournament. Quite the mouthful. What does that mean? Yeah, they're going to advance and hopefully compete in the fall when they have their TNT deal and they crown new tag team champions. That's all you need to know. The audience still seemed rather confused by the Dark Order. I've seen their work in PWG, a little bit in ROH, but it seems as though the common fan is asking, who are they? Why should we pay attention to them? At a glance, they come off as a lesser version of the War Raiders. They won the match, didn't really garner any reaction from that. Evans and Angelico got in some spots, but they were fairly forgettable. And that's not a knock on them. They just weren't prominently featured. Now, Luchasaurus saw his stock dramatically rise in this match. Sure, the gimmick is a tad over the top. If you showed the photos to some people, they may think, what the heck is this? But he's a legitimately solid hand. At 6'5", he moves like a cruiserweight. And his moveset still features some effective power moves. Also, the crowd was very invested in Jungle Boy. He plays the smaller babyface who garners sympathy extremely well. There's money in that pairing, and they should have had them win the match, but their time will definitely come. So overall, it was a pretty fun match. Now we move along to Hangman Adam Page versus Kip Sabian. Hangman Page, for the record, has one of the best theme songs in the game today. It was an excellent clash of styles, though the crowd died down during this match. Perhaps some of this was due to placement on the card following an exciting tag match. Maybe because this was a predictable conclusion. Nobody had Kip Sabian winning. And also the fact that Sabian didn't really play a heel in the match. So there was no good versus bad here. Like, who are you supposed to cheer for? So there was a noticeable lack of heat. Perhaps he was nursing the knee injury via storyline, or maybe there's something more to it, but Paige seemed a little bit slower than usual. At least that's what I noticed. The action quickly picked up towards the end. Paige powerbombed Kip onto the entrance ramp. I posted a little video of that on social media. Looked amazing, although I wouldn't want to be feeling that in the morning like Kip. Paige quickly won with the Deadeye. Now, post-match, Chris Jericho showed up wearing one of the Dark Order minion masks, and he viciously attacked Hangman Page, who was left bloodied, battered, beaten. I'll admit, I'm a little nervous that Hangman Page versus Chris Jericho headlining All Out will be a bit of a letdown. but I am reserving judgment until we see it because you just never know. So I'm going in with some realistic expectations that I just expect a good show at All Out. Next up, SoCal Uncensored, SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky with Christopher Daniels, mic in hand, of course, versus the Lucha Bros, that's Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. I believe the Lucha Bros are arguably the best tag team on the planet today. Pentagon Jr. possesses a larger-than-life presence. You can feel it. Maybe it's the makeup, it's the whole gimmick, it's just the fact that you look at him and you think he is so different, and he carries through the screen. It's truly incredible to witness. As fully anticipated, this was a bit of a spot fest, but you knew that was going to happen. Christopher Daniels even got involved, surprise, surprise, but he was ejected. Following the double foot stomp into the package pile driver, the Lucha Bros emerged victoriously. Post-match, the Lucha Bros attacked SCU with a ladder, it was a gold one, and then proceeded to challenge the Young Bucks to a ladder match at All Out. Not my favorite match featuring both teams, but it was still pretty solid. Next up, I believe this was easily match of the night, Kenny Omega versus CIMA. And CIMA is primarily known for his time in Dragon Gate, and from what I've seen, this was arguably his best singles match to date. Of course, I am always open to hear the other matches that he's had that were better than this, but from what I've seen, this was the best to date. After a slower pace to kick off the match, the action quickly picked up. Yes, there were many V-triggers and Meteoras, but it was also more methodical than I expected. And at this point, as I noted, it was match of the night. Kenny Omega won his first singles match in AEW with a one-winged angel. He goes on to face Jon Moxley in the much-anticipated match at All Out next month. And then, talk is Jericho, I guess. Chris Jericho came back out, noted that he admired Hangman's blood on his hand. Once again, he demanded a thank you from AEW, not the fans, but the promotion. Not from Jackoffville, as he called the city of Jacksonville. After running down Hangman, this brought out Paige. He attacked Jericho. Officials, members of the locker room came out, broke them up. Now the main event. The Young Bucks, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson versus the Brotherhood. That's Cody and Dustin Rhodes. The Young Bucks often get criticized for wrestling for spots. It happens a lot, but they were able to slow it down. Again, much of that can be credited to Cody and Dustin. They wrestled that old school style. They put together a story based on competitiveness. I thought it was pretty effective. The Bucks nailed the Meltzer driver on Cody. They scored the victory. I just really wish they sent the fans home happy with a Brotherhood victory. And then they were cut off short, and then they had the big presentation with the $150,000 check. That was really awkward. But one thing I want to know, Dustin Rhodes continues to prove why he's one of the most underrated performers of the past 2 decades. So, my final thoughts. I'm struggling to find myself fully invested without proper storylines and feuds. I can enjoy the show, but I want the story behind it. It feels more like an exhibition than a pay-per-view. And you can tell they are laying the groundwork for proper storylines and feuds towards All Out, and especially in October, once they land on TNT, it is critical that they have that in place. But with Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen, it just lacked the same excitement as Double or Nothing. If I'm ranking all 3 events, I'm probably going Double or Nothing, far and away number 1, Fyter Fest number 2, and then Fight for the Fallen number 3. There were still portions to enjoy, but it just didn't generate the same level of excitement with me. Again, match of the night, Kenny Omega versus CIMA. My overall grade, I'd probably give it like a C+. I'm not saying it was a bad show by any stretch of the imagination. It was just a little bit of a letdown. So I hope that you enjoyed this review and recap, and I will have a new episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack this coming Thursday. So until then, happy trails to you. Until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube. Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow the Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.
She wasn't dead, you only left her body for a little while. In spite of the